Hello guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. As you know, we have an ongoing series on current affairs and currently we are dealing with the subject economy. This is the second class in economy. Previous to this, we have dealt with national income and growth and today we'll be dealing with public finance. Now, just like we individually have certain income and we have certain expenses, and that is our personal finance and personal expenses. For the government, that is called public finance. And hence, Adam Smith defines public finance as the investigation into the nature and principles of state revenue and expenditure. Now, this topic we'll be doing in three parts. In part 1, we'll be talking about government borrowing, and these are the topics that we'll be discussing today. In the next part, we'll be talking about public finance, and these are the topics that we'll be discussing in the second part. Next, we'll talk about fiscal federalism, central-state financial relations, and we'll talk about Finance Commission recommendations and states borrowing being increased by 2%. Well, let's start with the part 1, government borrowing. Let's see a few basics regarding government borrowings. See, borrowing is a loan taken by the government and falls under the capital receipts in the budget document. I hope you would be knowing that income and expenditure is divided into capital and revenue, and amongst that, borrowing falls under capital income. Why? Because it is increasing liability. Anything that increases liability or decreases assets is capital income. Now see, while managing money, cash outflows can overshoot cash inflows. When businesses face this, they approach banks to get the working capital loans, and Government of India approaches either the market or RBI for short-term lending or long-term lending by issuing securities. And this is what was done. Recently also, RBI had issued cash management bills and RBI had extended WMA limit of the states. Let us see what are these two instruments, cash management bills and ways and means advances. See, the government borrows for varied time period. It can either be 91 days, 365 days or even more than that. When it is less than 91 days, we use these two instruments, cash management bills and ways and means advances. Between 91 to 365 days, which means more than 91 days and less than 365 days, we use treasury bills. Let us see what is cash management bills. It is issued only by central government. Treasury bills are issued by the central government for three specific durations, 91 days, 182 days and 364 days. Ways and means advances are issued by both central as well as the state government, and the interest is charged at existing repo rate. However, is there anything else that we should know about these three instruments? Well, yes, there is. First, let us talk about ways and means advances. It is of two types, normal WMA and special WMA. Well, special WMA is a collateralized form and the state governments have to pledge government securities to avail this facility. Normal WMA is called clean advances because there is no such collateralized lending. Next point, limit for each state is different. If a state wants to borrow beyond the WMA limit, it is called an overdraft. And as we know, in WMA, the interest rate is charged at repo rate, and in overdraft, interest rate will be higher than WMA. Fine. Now moving on to cash management bills and treasury bills. A basic thing that we need to know about these two is that they are zero coupon bonds. Zero coupon bonds are issued at a discount and redeemed at face value at maturity. So for example, if the face value of a zero coupon bond is rupees 100, we can get that bond at rupees 80, and when that bond will mature, we can get 100 rupees. Since the interest payment is zero, interest rate is zero, that is why it is called zero coupon bonds. Fine. So now you will ask me, then why to purchase them? It is just like any other lending, you're giving certain money and you're getting back more. But another additional benefit that you get is that since there is no interest, you don't have to pay any tax on interest, although you still have to pay capital gains tax. Fine. So that is about these three instruments. Now let us see what about more than 365 days. For the central government, it is called the dated government securities and their tenure ranges from 5 to 40 years. Then for the state governments, it is called state development loans and the interest rates are higher than the government securities for obvious reasons. Fine. Next, RBI recently has conducted the first ever OMO in SDLs. Alright, so this is an important piece of information. Also, have you heard something about call money and commercial paper? Hold that thought. Just to conclude this, remember these are the central government instruments and these are the state government instruments. Now bringing back that thought, this is the question in UPSC 2020. Last year only it was asked. So whatever technical stuffs we are reading, that is very important because, well, the questions are technical. We cannot do anything about it. If the questions will be technical, we'll have to study them technically. Fine? Don't worry, this question will be better clear after capital markets chapter. But I hope fourth point at least you would be sure that zero coupon bonds are non-interest bearing bonds. So option 4 is automatically wrong and B and D you can eliminate directly. Fine? But anyways, you will be able to do that after we are done with capital markets chapter. So that is done about the first topic. Now let's talk about 9th edition of the status paper on government debt. This topic will be a little long, guys. This will take around 10 to 15 minutes. Fine? 9th edition of the status paper on government debt. There is one important point that you need to note down, guys, is that the central government has been bringing this out since 2010-11. Alright? It has not been brought since independence. It has not been brought since 1991 reforms. Please keep that one thing in mind. Before we move on, let us first try to understand the government debt. Alright? Now, the government debt, the total liabilities of the central government can be divided into three parts. First, public debt, which is taken against Consolidated Fund of India. I hope you would be remembering that there are three types of funds: Consolidated Fund, Public Account and Contingency Fund. So, public debt against Consolidated Fund of India, other liabilities taken against public account and extra budgetary resources. First, let's talk about public debt. Public debt can be divided into internal debt or external debt. In internal debt, it can be marketable debt or it can be non-marketable debt. So what is non-marketable debt? Non-marketable debt are securities that are issued to state governments. Fine? Please remember this point. Their duration is around 14 days and they are issued to state governments. They are not issued in the market. Hence the name, no? Non-marketable debt. Fine? Next, public account liabilities. It includes liabilities on the account of Provident Fund, reserve funds, deposits, National Small Saving Funds is included in public account liability. Next one thing you need to know is that this is the total liabilities of the central government. Alright? If you come across the term general government debt, it means for center as well as the state. Fine? Now, extra budgetary resources will be dealing in the next part in detail as I've already shown you in the topic listing. Fine? One thing, what about the respective weightages? Because sometimes this question can be asked to arrange them in the higher or lower order. So, just need to remember few facts. The first three facts that you need to remember is that internal debt is approximately 90% of the GDP, marketable debt is approximately 80% of the GDP and extra budgetary resources is about 0.5%. Apart from this, there are two important points that you need to know. First thing that you need to note down is the non-marketable debt has increased and rest all has decreased except extra budgetary resources. That has increased. Fine. Next, you don't need to remember the percentages. You just need to know that internal debt is the max, public account liability, then followed by the external debt. Having discussed this, try to answer this question. Fiscal consolidation is one of the objectives of India's economic policy. What is fiscal consolidation? It means anything that will enhance our finances. So, increasing the taxes will generate more revenue for the government. Reducing the subsidies will decrease the expenditure of the government. But getting more loans will increase the liability and that will not be a prudent fiscal consolidation part. Fine? Hence the answer is 1 and 3. Third question, which of the following constitute internal debt of the government of India? I hope you know the answer to this, both 1 and 2. Now let's talk about the trend in government finances. This will be a little factual topic, guys. We need to know 5 points in this. And let us evaluate each point whether they are correct or wrong. So first let us start with the central government debt has crossed 100 lakh rupees. This is a right statement, guys. Recently for the first time we have crossed 100 lakh rupees. That is why this is very important. So this is a correct statement. Now let us talk about the second statement. Total liabilities of central government has declined steadily immediately after enactment of FRBM Act. Now as you can see in the graph, it has indeed declined. But some of you will point out that is it really steady? It has declined, we agree, but has it been really steady? Because steadily should have looked something like this. But here there are discontinuities and in between it has also increased and not always been decreasing. Guys, ज़्यादा भावुक मत होइएगा. This statement is from Economic Survey directly. You can argue all you want that grammatically this is wrong and steadily should mean something uniform and there has been discontinuities, but this is what this statement has been given in your Economic Survey and this is what we need to believe. Alright? Because UPSC does not care about your Wren and Martin, it only cares about what is there in the government document. उसके बाद आप लिटिगेशन में जाइए, क्वेश्चन गलत है, यूपीएससी से भिड़िए, nobody cares. What UPSC has said is final. Fine? So these first two statements were right. Now let us talk about the next two statements. Both of them are factual points, but in this one thing we need to know is what is rollover risk. So rollover risk is a risk associated with the refinancing of debt. It is nothing but taking new loans to pay off old loans. इसकी टोपी उसके सर. And as you can see in the graph that yes, indeed, the maturity profile has improved and the proportion of dated securities maturing in less than 5 years has seen a decline. Consistent decline is the same statement from the Economic Survey. Please do not get confused. Fine. So these two statements are also correct. Now let us talk about the final statement. Central government debt is characterized by low currency risk and interest rate risk. So the next question that should come to our mind is what is currency risk and what are interest rate risk? See, interest rate risk is the potential for the investment loss that result from a change in interest rate. Remember, the dated securities can be either floating or fixed. So if it is a floating interest rate, the interest rates can change. And currency risk is the possibility of losing money due to unfavorable moves in exchange rates. Fine, so that is the currency risk. Now, most of the public debt has been contracted at fixed interest rate. That is why interest rate risk is lower. And most of the debt is internal. Remember, 90% of the debt is internal debt, and owing to that, our currency risk is also very low. Fine? All these points lend certainty and stability to the budget in terms of interest payments. Fine? So all these statements were true. Now, quick question, guys. I know I'm deviating from being prelims specific, but the next 5 minutes are really going to help you. I just want you guys to integrate your mains and prelims preparation better. Now, try to answer this question, guys. If the question comes in your mains, the government debt has been increasing in the recent times. Do you think it's sustainable? How will you attempt this question, guys? Well, to do that, what are the golden rules of answer writing? First, always stick to the demand of the question. And next, use connecting lines between the subparts. Fine. So this question has two subparts. First is the government debt has been increasing in the recent times, and the second, whether is it sustainable. The first part will become our introduction, and is it sustainable will be our body, and can be dealt in two parts. Yes, to a certain extent, but also no. Guys, always remember this cue while answering your questions. थोड़ा सा प्यार हुआ है, थोड़ा है बाकी. Yes, to a certain extent, थोड़ा प्यार हुआ है, but also no, थोड़ा है बाकी. In any question, whether they're asking you to critically evaluate, discuss, justify, it will always boil down to writing certain positives and writing certain negatives. थोड़ा सा प्यार हुआ है, थोड़ा है बाकी. Now, this is the demand of the question that we need to address. And these are the facts with us. Guys, always remember the statements in prelims are your points in mains. So now let us try to use these statements to write an answer in mains. We do nothing but we just rearrange these points, and this is half our answer. But for moving between two subparts, we need a connecting line. You can use any connecting line. I have used this. So how will I start my answer? Central government debt has recently crossed 100 lakh crore rupees for the first time. But still the rising debt doesn't seem to be much of a problem. थोड़ा सा प्यार हुआ है. As I'll give these 4 points. But again, while moving from one subpart to another subpart, because थोड़ा सा ही प्यार हुआ है और थोड़ा है बाकी, I need another connecting line. Now this connecting line also we have seen. We can use that these attributes lend certainty and stability to the budget in terms of interest payments. However, and now we can criticize. You can give any points. So for example, you can say that currently our revenue expenditure is more than 90% of our total expenditure, whereas according to Kautilya's Arthashastra, our capital expenditure should be 85% to 90%. So our expenditure profile is reversed. Fine? And then you can add 1 to 2 more points and then you can write a way forward. I hope this helped. Now, moving on to the next one, government debt strategy. Guys, you can pause the video and look at the PDF that is there in the description box. There's nothing much to tell in this. It's what we've already done. Fine? So just pause the video and give it a reading. So that completes our second topic. Next, moving on to the third topic, FRBM Act, Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act. See, it's an act of parliament to establish fiscal discipline and improve management of public funds. But there is one important point that you need to note down, that following documents must be placed along with the budget documents annually in the parliament: macroeconomic framework statement, medium-term fiscal policy statement, fiscal policy strategy statement. Now see here guys, second point, medium-term fiscal policy statement. This is an important point to know because you can be confused and it can say that medium-term fiscal policy statement is to be produced every 6 months. But no, it has to be produced annually. And these are also important facts because the question was asked in 2020 only. Read the question. Along with the budget, Finance Minister also places other documents before the Parliament which include the macroeconomic framework statement. The aforesaid document is presented because this is mandated by, now we know, FRBM Act. Fine. See this another question. According to the FRBM Act, the government is under the obligation to present 3 statements before Parliament along with the annual budget. Which one of the following is not one of them? ABC is correct, D is wrong, and hence for this particular question, D is the correct answer. Fine. Now, one quick question guys. What does it mean that we have fiscal deficit? That means our expenditure is more than our income. But why is our expenditure more? See, developing countries like India need government investments to be the driver of growth since the private sector is shy of investing in immature economies. I hope you remember from our previous discussion on national income and growth that there are 4 horses driving the growth cart, and amongst that, government expenditure is amongst the most important, and especially in developing countries. Fine? Now, let us see the N.K. Singh Committee recommendations in 2017. It proposed to replace the FRBM Act with a Debt Management and Fiscal Responsibility Bill. It proposed a debt to GDP ratio. For central government, it should be 40%, and for state governments combined, it should be 20%. Then it suggested establishment of a fiscal council. Guys, pause the video and go through the perceived role of fiscal council, please. Fine. Now, what about this statement? This statement right or wrong? N.K. Singh Committee recommended setting up a fiscal council to manage government debt in order to reduce fiscal deficit. No guys, this is a wrong statement. Alright, fiscal council has nothing to do with debt management. Alright, it is an advisory body. Fine. Which is the body for debt management? Public Debt Management Agency. And this function is to be transferred from RBI to PDMA. Fine. Now, another small point that you need to know that the N.K. Singh Committee had permitted to deviate from the targets. Now see guys, the committee had given the recommendation in 2017 and in 2018 a question was asked. The FRBM Review Committee report has recommended a debt to GDP ratio of 60% for the general debt. Remember, total liabilities of the central government and the general debt. So that is 60%. Well, yes, that is a true statement, comprising 40% of central government, yes, 20% for state government, correct. The central government has domestic liabilities of 21%. No, the figures were just reversed, guys. For the central government, it was 49% then, and for the state governments combined, it was 21%. Now, the third statement is also true according to Article 293, Clause 3. This we discussed in our classes. So, the answer is C, 1 and 3. That completes our third topic. Moving on to the last topic for today, guys. Monetization of deficit. See, recently, some economists have suggested that the government should monetize the deficit. It is a form of non-debt financing, and as a result, under monetization, there is no increase in the net public debt. Let us see the history of deficit monetization. See, Till 1997, RBI used to automatically monetize the government deficit through issuance of ad hoc treasury bills. But in 2003, RBI was barred under FRBM Act. However, in 2017, again, an escape clause was added and monetization of deficit is now permitted. It is not barred. That is an important fact for you guys to know. Alright? Now, let us try to understand what exactly is this monetization of deficit. See, when you will have certain deficit, you will need to finance that, and that is what we call as deficit financing. Now, this deficit financing can be done in two ways. One is you directly go in the market, you borrow and you pay some interest payments on that. So, you either borrow from the market directly or you monetize the deficit through RBI. So, what is monetization of deficit? It is financing of extra expenses with money instead of debt. In monetization of deficit, essentially RBI prints more money to finance the government deficit. However, this can be done in two ways. One is direct monetization and other is indirect monetization. Under direct monetization, RBI prints new currency and purchases the government bonds directly from the primary market, that is from the government, and in indirect monetization, government issues bonds in primary market and then RBI purchases them from the secondary market through open market operations using newly printed currency. I hope these terms will not be very new to you guys, considering you're giving prelims this October. Fine, let's try to answer this question. In India, deficit financing is used for raising resources for economic development. This is a UPSC question that was asked in 2013. Next question, which one of the following is likely to be the most inflationary in its effect? Repayment of public debt, borrowing from public to finance a budget deficit, borrowing from the banks to finance a budget deficit, and creating new money to finance a budget deficit. Always creating new money without the commensurate supply of goods and services will lead to inflation, because inflation at its very core is nothing but too much money chasing too few goods. Fine? So the answer is D. That completes our fourth topic, and with this we complete our part 1. Next, we will start with part 2, and in that, these are the topics that we'll be dealing with, as I've already told you guys. Now guys, before we conclude for today, I know the times are gloomy, it's stressful, some of you might not be able to concentrate, and some of you are just being lazy. I know बहुत कठिन है डगर पनघट की, but guys, please buckle up. Only 3 months are remaining for this attempt. Alright? अच्छा ये बताओ, यही गाना गा रहे हो ना? कोई बात नहीं. Anyways, I hope you liked the lecture and I hope you liked the color scheme. Thank you so much guys.